Hi, and welcome to the Spawdcast. My name's Carrie and I'm your host and your pet's life coach. Sitting on the couch with me today is Joey Tafoya,
Hello.
who is
Hi.
one of the biggest pet lovers you're ever going to meet.
I am.
He's a huge lover of basset hounds, so if you like basset hounds, this is your guy. But one of the reasons Joey's sitting to the left of me right now is because of a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. Joey has lost a pet to cancer. He had a basset hound named Clooney. He has
That's
one
right,
now
yeah.
named George Clooney. But tell us a little bit about what happened with Clooney.
Well, I adopted a 10-year-old basset hound, and I fell in love with him. I did a cancer test on him in April. 4 months later, they told me he had stage 4 lymphoma, and there was nothing I could do. He had 90 days. I was just...
4 months later.
Yeah, 4 months later.
After he had already had a cancer screening that didn't show or detect anything.
There was nothing they could do about it.
Wow. So for our listeners, you know this season I decided to bring on guest co-hosts, and this is one of the reasons why I did it, is because I thought it would be really beneficial to bring on somebody who isn't in the industry, who just is, you know, a lover of pets, who can ask some of the questions that I may not think to ask you, which is why I brought Joey on, so he could fulfill that need for us a little bit. But what's interesting about Joey is when I kind of put out a list and I said, I'm going to be bringing on X, Y, and Z guests, he jumped at the chance to talk to our guest that we're bringing on today. So I would like to introduce you to our guest today. His name is Peter Ciancarelli. Hi, Peter.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hi, Peter.
So Peter... comes into the pet world much like Joey kind of came into it. He was a pet lover and has a dog named Allie. Can we see Allie real quick?
Allie. Hi.
Oh, Allie.
Oh, look at that.
So I'm going to how old is Allie?
She'll be 12 in a few months. I got to stop saying, like, I got to just enjoy 11.
Yeah.
And stop saying, like, she'll be 12 in the next.
Right.
I feel like I'm just making the clock go by quicker, but she's 11 and a half.
She's 11 and a half. So Peter heads up a Facebook group called Allie's Canine Cancer Crew. So Peter, tell us a little bit about how you got involved with running a Facebook group that's grown so much that now it's won awards, right? It's an award-winning Facebook group. Come on, it is. Tell us.
Yeah.
Someone reached out to me recently. They just started a magazine in the UK called Westies and Besties, and they wanted to include their top 5 favorite Facebook groups. So it's a popular group. I wouldn't say it's, you know, it's an opinion, you know, but I'm super honored to have it in there. And it started by, you know, Carrie, and I don't know about you, Joey, but I just love watching lives, Rodney Habib, Karen Becker. It's just like I'm listening to it in the car on the way to work, while I work out. I can't get enough of it. If I could have surround sound speakers in my bathroom while I'm showering, and you know what, I would do that to just get more information in.
Sure.
And so I was just like, one day I want to do my own lives.
Right.
You know, I want to do my own lives. So I just started asking people and made my own group, and it just grew. It just grew. When
you say do your own lives, you mean your own live videos, correct?
My own live videos with guests. I just posted up one before we jumped on here about how I deal with tick bites. I found a tick bite on Allie, posted a quick video.
Right.
It's just more information.
So have you had Allie since she was a baby?
Yeah, since she was about 8 or 9 weeks old.
Okay, so where did you get her?
My stepfather, I remember the day my stepfather showed me her on Pet Finder, and he was like, "What do you think about this one?" And I'm like, "Nah, she's ugly." Really?
Oh, come on, we've all done that.
No, that was just me, like, putting up a wall, because we had a dog at the time who I loved, and I don't like change. So I was like, no, I'm all set. I'm good. I don't want to mess up our dynamic. She came anyway, and, you know, here we are.
Right. So did she come with the name Allie, or did you name her that?
No, she came with the name Allie.
And she got to keep her name. I love the name, though, actually. It's a really good name.
Allison.
So you get Allie, and do you remember your first vet visit you ever went to with Allie?
I don't, but I remember the first vet. They're a conventional vet, and there's nothing. I'm not shaming conventional medicine here, but it's just a very reactive approach. So the dog gets diarrhea, or they get a tick bite. Let's put them on antibiotics.
Right.
They have pain. There's a pill for everything. There's some, and so I did that for 4 or 5 years, and then she was just getting sicker and sicker until and in the meantime I'm doing research. I'm on groups. That's just beginning, and that's how I kind of got steered away from that.
How old was she when? So you were very compliant in the beginning with your veterinarian, right? Vaccinations and doing everything they told you to do.
Yeah, in the beginning.
In the beginning, and then at what point? How old is she when she? So tell us, she got diagnosed with cancer. What kind of cancer was she diagnosed with?
Yeah, so I remember being in my room, and it was 2015, and I was just checking her over. I wanted her to stay this like pristine dog, like no lumps or bumps, no calluses or bruises, nothing for her whole life. And that's just not how it goes. But I was checking her over. I found a little red, hard, purpley, reddish lump. And I was like, oh, that's not right. So me being the neurotic hypochondriac pet owner, I just rushed her to the vet the next day.
I think we're all hypochondriac pet owners. We always think any mole, any growth, she's dying. I know it. She's dying. Joey once brought his dog to a vet because it had lumps all the way down his back. I'm sorry, can I tell?
Tell the story. That's
okay. So Joey takes his dog to this conventional veterinarian, and it's a puppy basset hound, and his name's Frankie. And Frankie has bumps all the way down his back. If you pet him down the back, you feel a lump, 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 lump. Joey panics, rushes to the
I thought he got stung by a bee.
Well, he didn't know, but the vet was the one that was like, oh my gosh, he got stung by a bee, and he gave you all these medications. I remember Joey came to me with a myriad of antibiotics. They gave him an injectable. They gave him pain medications. They did all of this stuff. I almost can't even say it, Joey. What was the problem?
When it was his fur. When you have a puppy, the fur usually it has ripples in it when they're very young. I thought he got stung by a bee, and I thought he was gonna die.
So
and the vet said, "Oh yes, it's a bee sting." Gave him a shot. Gave me a bunch of medicine. Charged me a few $100s.
Yeah,
and it was his fur.
Yeah. It was his fur. So then Joey came to me and he says, I don't know if I did the right thing. And I said, well, Joey, here's the thing. This is fur, and it's growing in a bumpy little manner. So the good thing is he didn't end up giving him all of those antibiotics and the pain medications. And to this day, he still has
the bumpy fur.
The bumpy fur.
I gotta tell you another story. When I got real quick, when I got Georgie, he was a baby, and he had little brown spots all over his feet.
Yeah.
I took him to the vet. They said, oh my God, where did you get him? I said, well, I got him from Missouri. They said, you got him from a puppy mill. And they told me horrible stories about the puppy mill. And they said, do you see all the brown spots? That's from him sitting in his own feces. And it's horrible. They got me so scared. They gave him a bath. They gave him more medicine. They washed him, and I washed him, and about 3 or 4 or 5 times of taking him to the groomer and washing him, I'm like, those spots are still there. He's 13 years old now.
It's his spots?
It's his spots.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
It's his spots.
All joking aside,
wow.
While I know that we as pet parents can be hypochondriacs, unfortunately, in Allie's case, this was not that situation, right? So
no. So I took off work. I brought her there the very next day, or it might have even been that night. I don't remember. But that was back in 2015, and they looked at it. They, the conventional way is just pretty much cut it out, or let's aspirate it. If you're concerned about it and you want to pay the money, we'll just remove it for you. And so 2 days later, they said it was suspicious. The cells were, so a couple of days later, they removed it, and they got clean margins. This was the owner of the practice, and it came back as the biopsy, low-grade mast cell tumor, and they got clean margins, and they said in the medical records they cured it. And I was asking them all these questions like the flea and tick, spot-ons, the heartworm prevention, the chewable heart guard, the food, the vaccinations, everything I've been hearing, I'd go to them with questions or email or call, and they would just say, like, stop going to Dr. Google. No, it's not dangerous for your dog. I left the practice because we were just bumping heads too much.
Right.
And
right.
I would just start cold calling holistic veterinarians in my area, saying, you know, I don't want to give Allie the rabies vaccine anymore. Will you see her as a patient? And some, you know, one of them was just like, sure, bring her in. But if she were to bite anybody, I'd have to report it and give her a booster. And then I saw her for a little while. And then I found Dr. Roman, and I've been with her for 3 or so years.
Dr. Roman's amazing. If you've listened to our Spawdcast before, she's actually been on our show before. She's amazing. If you haven't listened to that one, I would highly recommend listening to it, because Dr. Roman was the one that really helped Peter, and now you guys have become friends, correct? So a lot of your videos have Dr. Roman in it as well, right? So it's just, that's why I send people to your Facebook page all the time.
Oh, thank you. I called her last night about something with my parents' dog Shadow, and it turned out that he was off. He was really off, and so I was nervous. I went over. They live 5 minutes away from here, and I was like watching him for a few minutes, and I'm like, oh, he's stoned. He ate Allie's poop, and he was falling over. He slept it off, but Dr. Roman called me for a half an hour, and that's just the kind of vet she is. Like, I can just say, can you call me? And she'll call me, and she's become a really good friend of mine. She says, hi, Carrie.
Oh,
and she'd love to talk to me again.
Oh, yeah, we plan on putting her back on. I told you I want to talk to her more about sustainability and stuff, so that's another show. We'll do that.
Yeah, she'd love to.
So Allie gets it removed, and then they diagnosed her with a specific type of cancer, correct?
Yes.
What was that?
Yep, low-grade mast cell tumor.
Okay.
And over the next 5 or 6 years, I really began taking a hard look at everything I was doing, putting on her, the environment, and just really working on her immune system. And it didn't really all start until, I would say, towards the end of 2018 is when she crashed again, and that's when things really started to change for the better with Dr. Roman.
Right. So when after her first diagnosis, did you see? So she was sick. It wasn't just that she had it. You actually saw symptoms of her struggling and fighting through this. What kind of symptoms did you see?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
What kind of symptoms did you see with her?
She's a mellow dog, but she's also can be high-strung, high energy, and just has but she was just not wanting to eat her food, her kibble. That's when I switched her to raw, but she was so sick she didn't want to eat anything. And we were always going to the emergency vet. I was shoving food down her throat just to get her to eat and get her stronger. It was very stressful. She was like emaciated. Her rib cage was like that. Oh. And she Allie. Always having diarrhea, always being dehydrated and just not well.
And so you get connected with Dr. Roman, and what's the first thing she says to you where you realize you're in the right spot? Do you remember feeling like this is who I want to be with?
Well, Dr. Roman, I remember the first appointment I had with her, and she said putting your dog on raw food stabilized her, saved her life. If it wasn't for that, she wouldn't be here. But when you have a dog that's, you can put a dog on raw food and they might do amazingly well for a little while. But if there's other stuff going on that's not being addressed, they can do well, but then they crash again. It's like the honeymoon phase. Right. So
they have that with steroids. You give somebody steroids and they think they're great, and then they're not. Yeah.
So the game changer was, she looked at her whole records. When she saw the amount of vaccinations, she's used to it, but she's not used to it at the same time. Her mouth just hit the floor. Yeah. And she started with homeopathic detoxing. We did microbiome restorative therapy that day, fecal transplant. We did ozone therapy. And she really wanted me to test her for Pleckner syndrome, which is a whole topic on its own we can get into. But I was like, no, $300, I'm not doing that test. No way. I don't know what it is. I don't believe in it. I'm just going to do what I want to do and then leave.
Right.
And then November 2018, Allie had another really bad crash. And she was like, Peter, we got to test for this. She's classic Pleckner. And we did it. And, she came back positive. And then just recently, from that point on, November 8, 2018 to now, this past August, I got a perfect Pleckner test.
Oh.
Wow.
It took me that long just to learn how to balance her. And I had to use, Dr. Becker too. Like I had to reach out to her,
Right.
A shot in the dark. And that's another story. But
So Pleckner
Man.
syndrome is a highly controversial syndrome that he's talking about right now. So what were so once you got her clear test back, tell us a little bit about what Pleckner syndrome is. So explain about the hormones and how that is affecting what it is.
it's very confusing, but the way that I can explain it best is that it's an endocrine immune disorder dysfunction. And it basically, you want to do the EI1 endocrine immune test, blood test, and it tests for the dog's total estrogen, their cortisol, and they usually have high elevated estrogen, deficient or low cortisol that's not working properly, and that's the stress hormone. So she was very stressed out, couldn't deal with her triggers, just like anxiety through the roof. It's low thyroid, so low T3, T4, and low immunoglobulins. So that's what Pleckner syndrome is.
So
and I'm
Pleckner
sure
syndrome,
there can be variations.
Right. So, and it was found by Dr. Pleckner, which is named after him, but he's since passed away. So it's become, very controversial. I mean, I'll bring that up sometimes to doctors when I have a dog I suspect could possibly be that. And
Yeah.
I don't come across really good. It's hard to find doctors. So you really need to, if you think your pet might have Pleckner syndrome, you really need to seek somebody who knows a little bit about it.
And Jean Dodds doesn't believe in it. I love Jean Dodds, but she doesn't believe in it.
Right.
You
No,
know,
there's some,
and-
that's why I'm saying as pet parents, you have to seek out both sides of it and figure out, and you need to get very intuitive with your pet, right? In tune with your pet. And if your instincts are telling you there's something more, you need to follow it.
Yeah.
You need to follow it. If there's one thing
Absolutely.
we can learn from pets is our instincts are good. It's just as humans, we throw them away for emotions. And so,
Yep.
you started treating her for Pleckner?
Yeah, I started treating her for Pleckner. And one of the things that Dr. Pleckner, who's no longer alive, he passed away 4 or 5 years ago. So there's really nobody can go back to him and say, hey, what would you do in this case? And everyone's kind of on their own.
Yeah.
And I feel like, Dr. Roman didn't even know about Dr. Becker's way to treat it. And I feel like there just needs to be more communication among veterinarians,
I agree.
among everyone, not just those two, but just everyone. Because, Dr. Roman now sends people to me who have dogs with Pleckner that she can't help because, so they can find out what I'm doing with Allie.
Right.
Her hair grew back. It's a lot thicker and more lush on her belly. She got all her weight and muscle mass back. She's never been better in her whole life, and she's almost 12. So I think that's crazy. We've been battling chronic disease since she was 9 weeks old.
I think that's one of the there's many things that we are missing within our medical expertise as far as treating animals, but the endocrine system I think is ignored completely. And I don't want to say completely, like we still have the thyroid is looked at, but everything else we just ignore. And we spay and neuter our animals at such a young age. It seems common sense to think that could have some serious side effects.
Oh, sure.
And I agree with you, and we've talked about this. As a community, we need to come together, and we need to.
It's happening.
It is happening, but it's happening slow, and I want it to happen fast. I want everything. I just want them fixed now because I see so many dogs with these hormonal. I just had a client call me the other day, and she said, she wanted to know what she thought was wrong with her dog, and she threw out something. And when I told her I thought it could be hormonal, it was like I was speaking a foreign language to her. She hadn't even considered the fact that this could be based on hormones. And so we need to talk about it, and there are things we need to, and that's why I direct people to your site. So how
I think it's such a large, it's just multifactorial. With Allie and my parents' dog Shadow, it's gut, hormone, vaccine, toxicity related, generational, bad breeding. And it's hard to get out of that.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up generational problems, because when we're talking about cancer, I know for me, I've had people come to me and say, so if I feed my dog a raw diet, he won't get cancer. No, that's not what I'm saying. But generationally, if we can make our parents, that's why we did the episode on the 30-year plan. It wasn't to say, believe me, I wish my dog could live 100 years old. I'm not suggesting that my dog or Joey's dog or Allie can live to be 30, but I'm saying if we generationally
there you go.
fix the problems, eventually we should be able to get back up to that. Because you and I both know there are historical dogs that we know have lived that long, including the one that just passed away not too long ago in 2017. Her name was Maggie. She passed away and she was 30 years old. So we know it can happen, but we have to fix the gut from the parents. It's not just fixing your puppy's gut, it's making mom and dad healthy and grandma and grandpa healthy, and then they pass those all down. So sometimes, right, our dogs can get, we get this sick puppy and you think, I fed him right, I didn't over-vaccinate him, I didn't over-medicate him, I did all of these great things, and my dog still has cancer. So that's what we're talking about, right? Like, what do we do? So
and then there are the dogs that live to be 18, 19-year-old, 20 years old and eating kibble and doing everything that, you know, we're told is not good to do. And it's crazy.
Yeah. I'm careful with those. I know you and I had talked about it before, Peter. I've had clients who the definition between healthy and longevity are totally two different things. So you can have a pet, and I've seen these pets who I'm like, how is that dog still functioning? Because they're, 18 years old and they're still alive and breathing, but their ears are inflamed, they have arthritis, they can barely move. That's not healthy, that's just age. And so you get people who make that argument. My dog ate kibble his whole life and he lived to be 18 years old.
Certainly, yeah, that makes sense. And
I don't know why I put that voice in there right now.
Well, people are the same way, right? I mean, sometimes you can be unhealthy but live a long time.
Yeah, no, we're talking about extending the life of our pets in a healthy way. So we got to do that.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm doing now, I'd love to talk about. I'm not an expert on anything, by the way, but I'm sure you've heard Dr. Karen Becker and Rodney talk about David Sinclair. Mm-hmm. Have you? He's a geneticist at Harvard University here in Boston. And basically, David Sinclair is he's I wouldn't say anti-aging, but he's trying to. I've watched countless of his interviews on YouTube, and he talks about eating less often, and recently Karen has talked about a more species-appropriate feeding schedule for dogs that I'm considering. Every dog's different, and it's important to talk to your vet and take into consideration their age and medical issues, if any. But David Sinclair's studies with mice, he found that it didn't matter if you were eating more meat or more carb or more fat, but the ones that ate less often in a small window lived like 20% longer.
That's amazing.
So that's like time restricted feeding or intermittent fasting, whatever you want to call it. But his take home message is, if that's right, is it's not so much what you eat, but when you eat that's even more important. So there's lots of things you can do to increase health span and lifespan.
Yeah, I agree. I tell my clients all the time. Now, before I say this sentence, because I don't want people to go, well, Carrie does it. I do it because I know my dogs and I know the health of my dogs. I know the age of my dogs, all of that. So what I'm about to tell you is not a suggestion that you do it necessarily, but I fast. Peter and I talked about this. My dogs fast twice a month for 24 hours. And twice a week they eat almost a liquid diet. They eat a lot of veggies and they eat a lot of bone broths and stuff like that. So my dogs only eat once a day. So because I'm absolutely a supporter in not overfeeding and just forcing, because I know as a mother of a human child, when my son was little, if he didn't eat, I thought I was the worst parent. I somehow put the emotion on it.
Well, we equate food with love.
Food is love.
I love
food
you.
Is
eat
love.
more.
Eat
more. I love
eat
you.
more. And we need to do the tough love where it's like, hey, maybe eating less is the real love here, the real love. But what does he say about what the body does when we're not putting food into it? Has the test come out with, are we purging things? What's like extra vitamins, extra minerals, extra proteins? What is the benefit that he says he thinks is happening?
I think, again, I'm not an expert, but autophagy, I think that's what you're the term you're looking for when you're in that fasting state. And I think I think Karen even told me in a Zoom that your dog can reach that like after just 8 hours of fasting. So, if you're feeding once a day, great. If you have to feed multiple times, fitting it into an 8 to 12 hour window. And I cut her off after 6 o'clock. That's it.
Yeah.
And then she fasts until the next day. And I'm always trying to switch up the feeding times.
Sure.
It's hard during the week when I'm at work, but like today I fed her around 2 o'clock, and normally I don't feed her until 4:35, 5:30. So it just, it's not natural when you eat the same thing every day, same time every day.
Right.
Or when you're free feeding, it's just out for you to pick on all day. You're gonna unintentionally cut their life short if you deny them the opportunity to fast.
I agree.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, you had mentioned that to me before when I was feeding the dogs a lot.
Yeah.
You said they don't need to, it's better. But I mean, it's sinking in.
It's Dr. Richard Patton who wrote a book called, it's Dying by Excess. And you know which one I'm talking about? He wrote a book, and it's basically about if you want to save your pet, you need to do less and not feed more. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of his book right now, but he's a bioscientist, and he wrote a whole book on fasting and the importance of it with our animals. And it's Ruined by Excess, Saved by Lack is what it's called. Ruined by Excess, Saved by Lack by Dr. Richard Patton. It's an amazing book that I recommend you read because it'll help you from a bioscientist's point of view understand what we mean by that.
What happens inside the
body when they're doing it. Yeah. I was speaking to a wolf expert a couple weeks ago, and she said that they have video of wolves with prey walking right by them, and they don't do anything. They don't go after them, and they believe it to be part of their own instinct saying, I don't need to eat. I don't, just because it's available to me, I don't need to eat.
Sure.
So, but when we shove it in there, come on, and we're please, and we're putting it in their mouths.
So opposite of me and my refrigerator. So opposite.
So it's pretty interesting. So Allie gets diagnosed with her cancer at what age?
Well, I just want to run back really quick to the Sinclair really quick, but one of the things I'm doing with her right now that is pretty new and exciting. And David Sinclair talks about NAD precursors. So that's one of the things I'm doing with her is NAD keeps cellular energy going. So one of the big hallmarks with cellular aging now is with NAD. When these molecules are no longer present in high enough quantities in us or our animals, our mitochondria, what it does when they're no longer present, it doesn't produce ATP. And so that's when cellular energy decreases. And when that happens, DNA can start having errors, replication problems, then more chance of things going wrong. So that's one of the things they talked about in their last Facebook Live, Rodney and Karen, about if you have a sick animal with metabolic stuff. So Allie's a great example. It's a great example. Just scared her. It's really good for them because I want to slow down her aging. I want her to age more gracefully. You know what I mean? So I just think that it's an expensive supplement, but it's one of my favorite things that I'm doing with her. Right.
That's going to be interesting. I love watching all of the changes that are coming across, even in my own learning, because that's something I'm going to have to do some research on because I don't know that much about it. But so I know you and I are big on preventative, but then we do talk about what happens after the fact. But I'm going to just take you back just real quick just so they get an idea of what happened with Allie. So she got diagnosed with the cancer at what age?
Yeah. 5 years old.
Okay, so she's 5 years old. She gets diagnosed with cancer. Do you remember what the prognosis was? Did they tell you how long they thought she had to live?
They didn't, because it was low grade and they got clean margins, they didn't say go see an oncologist. They didn't say she has a certain amount of time to live. Okay. They just said it was cured. So,
because they removed it and said it was cured. But she, but she was still sick.
She was still sick. Yeah, she still wasn't doing good. And that's when, they said to me, like, there's nothing more we can do for her, for her sensitive stomach, if the antibiotics weren't curing it or, the kibble wasn't. They wanted me to go talk to a nutritionist at Tufts University, which I did do. And Kaylin Hines, they're very well known for pushing hills, and then internal medicine. at Tufts University, the giant teaching hospital here in Mass. And they said to me, they tested her for Addison's and all these different things. She spent 2 days at Tufts University by herself without me getting tests done, thousands and thousands of dollars. And you know what they said to me? They said, we don't know what's wrong. Bring her back if she gets worse. And I was furious.
Wow.
Sure, yeah.
Wow. And
at that point, the emergency vet was it was only 10 minutes away. We were just going there. You can't keep that up.
No. So the oncologist at Tufts recommendations were Hill's prescription diet. Was there any other recommendations for you to do to help?
Yeah. The nutritionist, not the oncologist,
but
the nutritionist said, no, they gave me a list of dry foods, limited ingredient dry foods, some fresh treats like veggies and fruits and whatnot, but it was more about just throwing on a ton of psyllium husk into her food just to bulk up her stool, and that was it. That was all they recommended doing. It was more about getting her stool perfect than,
Right. It's interesting that you bring that up, because not that I don't want our pets to have nice stool, but it's not an indication that everything is fine. I mean, you can have certain medical problems that aren't going to cause your stool to be loose. And that's a big mistake that people make a lot of times, as well as stool's fine. I mean, they could practically be laying in the corner, not moving for 3 days, but the stool looks good, so we're good to go. And I hear that a lot. And then I'm like, well, let's define what healthy stool is, because people think that if your dog is pooping, I'm working with a client right now, and she is convinced that so long as this dog poops 3 to 4 times a day, he's healthy. He's a kibble-fed dog, and I switched her diet, and of course now we're down to healthy poop once or twice a day. And yeah, some will get to that, but she's scared because she's like, he's only pooping twice a day. And I'm trying to slow her down and show her that was all waste that was coming out of her.
All the fillers, right?
It was all just, her dog was pooping nonstop. And by the way, pooping nonstop and extremely overweight. So he's really not getting, he's just getting all of the sugars and the carbs that are absorbing into his body, but he wasn't, yeah. But the mindset is the more they poop, right. So we got to get down to that point where we're absorbing the foods and doing that. So Allie is about 5 years old when she gets diagnosed, and she's how old now?
11 and a half.
11 and a half. Now, one of the things I love to see in your live videos is when you guys go out on hikes with Allie. She is an 11-and-a-half-year-old dog who has been through some pretty serious medical things. So to see her out there on your hikes with you is just proof to me, anecdotal, may they call it, that you're on the right track, right? So
thank you. Yeah, she moves like she's young. I did a DNA test on, not a DNA test, when Rodney and Karen are talking about how you can the way the future is going is you can test your dogs. They're called telomeres, the white caps on your DNA. And if they're short, you have a short life left. If they're longer, you have a longer life left. So that's how you can kind of gauge what you're working with. So I did it just for the sake of I wanted to see, and my anxiety was going crazy when I got the test back. And she's got the cellular health of a 7-year-old dog.
Wow.
Which was pretty awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome. I'm going to do my dog.
Do it.
He's got the emotional, the emotional age of like I don't know. He's just a very emotional dog. He's got. I don't want to call out women, but he's got the emotional age of a female. But he's a male. But anyway, so she's doing great. We know that, and I know we talk a lot about preventative things that we can do. Right, feeding well, not over vaccinating, not over medicating. I don't want to beat this to death. But let's talk about our dogs who are diagnosed with cancers. And I had a dog many years ago pass away from lung cancer. And that was very weird to me because I don't smoke and we just kind of get that in our head.
Wow, that is a...
Yeah, she died at a very young age and she had lung cancer. This was back when most of you know I worked for veterinarians for 12 years. So I cringe at all of the stuff I pushed people into back then because I didn't know. And I was the girl who was all about the vaccines and all about the stuff. And so my pet died of lung cancer when she was young. She was like 7 years old. This was many years ago.
How does a pet get lung cancer?
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. She was young. It was horrible. By the time we had it diagnosed, which you and I have talked about, by the time, this is why we're here with you, Peter, is because by the time your pet gets diagnosed, it's often too late to do much because they don't give us a lot of the signs. And that was your case, and that was my case. By the time Joy was, it wasn't Joy was my last golden retriever. Her Pebbles was diagnosed with cancer. It was stage 4, and the first sign I had of it is she coughed one day and blood came out. Other than that, there was no other symptoms. And when I was working for the vet, we took the x-rays. I mean, it was just her both lungs were just, she couldn't even breathe. And so there wasn't anything I could do at that point. Although, now what I know, I think I probably would have tried, and this is where I'm going to lead you into ozone therapy. So I want to kind of take this segment to talk a little bit about, once your pet has been diagnosed, what are some of the treatments now that you think are available, and some of the things that you've used for Allie?
Yeah, well, ozone therapy is one of them. And I was taking her to Dr. Roman. She never was going to get ozone therapy in clinic, except for I'd go and I would pick up at the clinic a glass jar of ozonated saline. So they just bubble the saline with ozone, which is O2, oxygen, turned to O3, ozone. It's just an atom molecule, and it brings more oxygen and more microcirculation to the body, and the body's better able to utilize oxygen more efficiently. So hyperbaric chamber is just flooding the body with oxygen, but ozone is just increasing the oxygen utilization and efficiency. So
that's a good way to explain it.
And it can also increase, it can also increase NAD as well, like we were talking about with David Sinclair. So what I do is, it's got like 100+ benefits. If you want to go on my group too, I have a video that I recorded of Dr. Roman talking about ozone therapy and microbiome and how it can help the immune system to modulate and heal. And she lists 100+ benefits of ozone therapy. It's amazing to look at all the benefits. But every day, I bought my own ozone machine.
I was just going to say, let's tell everybody how you can actually get your own ozone and do it at home yourself if you wanted to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So tell us how that works.
It was about $1,000, but the way I looked at it is, if I'm going to the vet every weekend and I'm spending $60 on a jar of ozonated saline that's only going to last me like 30 hours, I'm just going to charge an ozone machine and it'll pay off. Right. And then eventually I can use it every day for pennies a day. Yep. So I can, I give it to Allie most days, rectal insufflation. So I have an oxygen tank in my kitchen here. I'm going to take you guys to the kitchen.
Awesome.
So I've got an oxygen tank here, and this is my ozone generator. It's in a briefcase, but basically I'll fill a syringe with ozone gas, and then once that's done, I'll add a catheter. I'll lubricate it with aloe gel, and I'll stick it up her bum, and I'll give her the ozone gas most evenings, and that gives her so much energy. And I've used it for when she has diarrhea, when she's had a UTI or cystitis, when she had Horner syndrome, a neurological temporary thing. I rub ozonated oil on her gums. You can do it ear insufflation. You can put ozonated oil on tick, but there's so many uses.
Right.
And it's just great to have, and I feel like everybody should have one. Yeah. It's such a good tool to have in your home.
Yeah, yeah. There's not a lot of vets that do it, and that is also another controversy type treatment, and I can't understand it, except that it's just, I know that Dr. Roman does a lot of speaking. She was out in California, which is when I interviewed her. She was out here speaking at the Ozone Convention about it. But just in my area alone, I'm in Southern California in Orange County, and I only know of one veterinarian. And that doesn't mean there aren't other ones, but I only know of one veterinarian that's using ozone therapy right now.
It just seems to me that there's, it's A, B, and C. Your dog has this, your cat has this. Let's do A, B, and C. Okay, come back and let me know how you're doing.
Yeah, and they don't seek out, and unfortunately that A, B, and C is, A, your pet is sick, B, let's test, C, here's your drug.
Here's some medication, yeah.
And that's it. And anything past C is, Google doesn't know what they're talking about. That's the answers we get, right? Oh, you Googled it. Well, Google has a lot of really good information on it. So we have to keep looking. So ozone therapy, I've heard a lot of people have wonderful results from it myself. So I'm really glad. So, and then also let's talk about, she's done ozone therapy. She continues to do that. And what else have you done? I know fecal transplants, but you do it in a very awesome way that I'm not ready to do yet.
Yeah, there's many ways to do that too. So one of the ways, if Allie were to get diarrhea, what I would do, and I would see if it would resolve on its own by fasting for a day or so. I'm going to give her rectal ozone gas, and I stick the catheter only a couple inches in, and because I don't want it to kill the bacteria in her gut, which I was doing unintentionally, so I had to give her a transplant at home. But I would give her a piece of poop orally, microbiome, restorative therapy, and a day or two, her stools are back to normal.
Right.
So that's how I deal with diarrhea. But microbiome restorative therapy is just basically probiotics are great, prebiotics with them, but it can be 14 species or less, right?
Right.
I believe the highest one for dogs in the market is Phytosflora, Adored Beast, or Mercola, about 14 species, and they have a prebiotic larch. So that's wonderful, and I have it in my rotation, as well as my parents' dog too. But a microbiome, a poop, a healthy donor poop, can have, like, in the gut there's 500 species and 1,000 subspecies. You can't replicate that, right? So this is an ancestral probiotic.
Not to mention, it's living in its natural habitat. Right? The microorganisms, the bacteria are living in their natural habitat when we take it directly from the dog. Why am I acting like a 2-year-old right now? I can't say poop. So it comes straight, it hasn't been processed, it hasn't been frozen, we just take it from its natural habitat and we give it to the dog. Now, Peter gives it literally a bunch of poop. I give it in a pill because I just can't I haven't gotten there. Although dogs have been eating poop for millions of years. What is the deal?
Well, my thing is, like, for example, I just got another bag today, and you can buy it different. You can buy them in capsules, but if you buy the capsule, it's just like a small amount of poop in the capsule. And I want to just, like, because of how damaged she was and how many antibiotics she's been on, and just how sick she was, when I first get that fresh bag, I take a big chunk of it and I just pop it down her throat. I'm like, sit, I open up her mouth, pop it down her throat, done. And then as the days go on, I'll give her a smaller and smaller piece. But I'll go through a whole bag in like 4 days, 5 days maybe. And I've just been doing that for 2 years straight. Yeah. 2 years.
And she's just doing so well. I think that
I don't mess around.
Yeah.
I don't F around.
Yeah. It's good. Dr. Roman gave me some poop, some special poop.
Awesome. Awesome.
A funny story. So she flies out here with poop on ice. And she brings her poop on ice out to California.
This is all new to me. I'm telling you right now.
She brought poop in an ice chest on a flight from Boston to LA. I pick her up, and then she has to stay in a hotel, but they didn't have a refrigerator in the hotel, so she has to ask the guy if she can put it in there, but she never tells him that it's poop. So, but it's in an ice chest, but she tells him I got to put it in there. So I'm like, oh my God, if that guy ever found out that you put poop in the refrigerator, I don't know. So she ends up giving me one, and I got it home, and then I sat my dog down, and at first I just put it in the backyard, hoping maybe it would happen naturally, but it didn't. I don't think she recognized that strange poop because it wasn't from her brother's. So, and I guess she's picky that way. I don't know. It can only be from family poop. I don't know. But she looked at it and wouldn't do it. So then I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was such a child about it. The full glove, and I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I just opened up her mouth.
Oh, yeah.
I did it. But I haven't, and she swallowed it, and then I felt so bad. I'm like, what am I doing? But from then on, I've been giving her the poop pills because I don't know, but
it's easier for you. Yeah, it's a good way. You're still giving it, and I think that the more you can do it. I give her a little piece every day. I try to. And some dogs, Dr. Roman believe, like with Pleckner syndrome, can't hold on to it, and so constantly having to repopulate the gut.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And I think that's the important thing for people to understand is every time they poop and every time something happens inside their gut, diarrhea, they're flushing more bacteria out, which is why you have to keep replenishing it because their guts have already been damaged.
So it's an uncomfortable situation to talk about, but I'll be walking my dogs, and if I take my eye off them just for a minute, and what are you doing over there? And they're eating coyote poop or something.
Oh, the coyote poop's probably got some good bacteria in it for them.
Just get away from that.
Well,
but
from now on, you're going to be like, hey, everybody, dinner.
I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, but they just managed to find it on their own.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, why does a dog do that?
Yeah.
Because
and there's a few reasons why they do it.
I've talked to lots of friends who all my friends' dogs do it once in a while.
Yeah,
they like the taste, or like a kibble-fed dog, it's going to be a big, voluminous, stinky poop. Like you said, a lot of fillers. It's just they're not digesting or absorbing or utilizing it. So big, voluminous, stinky poops. It's full of sugar, and it's tasty. It's like crack. And then also the animal has an imbalance, a gut microbiome imbalance.
Yeah.
So they're trying to rebalance their gut. They've been self-medicating since they have been on this earth, and it's a natural thing for them to do. But people look at me like I have 3 heads when I talk about. But you want them to be eating healthy poop. So if I find deer poop or rabbit poop, I let Allie eat it if she wants to.
Yeah.
I try to. She'll eat a whole pile of it. I don't want her getting sick.
Right.
But I wouldn't let her start eating random dog poop, though.
Right. Me either, because like we were saying, there's a lot of reasons why they eat poop. They could be eating it because it's got the sugars in it because it's from an undigested kibble-fed dog. So you need to know whose poop they're eating, which maybe, Joy knew a little bit more than I gave her credit for when I tried to get her to eat the strange poop in the backyard. She didn't know. So, so we've done ozone therapy. We've done fecal microbial transplants. That's the fecal transplants. What else is Allie? Of course, we've changed her diet. Like she got off the kibble. She did all of that kind of stuff.
I think her hormones, I think that's been a big piece too, is
the Pleckner.
Her being spayed at 8 weeks old.
Yep.
That was a big thing. And
so young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So, Peter, I'm going to not keep you too long. I know you have a training session coming up real quick here. So I got to let you go because he's going in for a training session. But I want to thank you so very much for having Allie's Canine Cancer Crew. Please make sure if you are a pet lover, your pet doesn't have to have cancer. Trust me, our goal, Peter's, mine, Joey's, everybody in this industry, is to keep your pet from having cancer and to help you if your pet has cancer. But please go to his site before you find yourself in this situation. Trust me on that. So it's called Allie's Canine Cancer Crew. Keep up the good work,
yes.
Peter. Really,
you too. You guys too.
Thank
Peter,
you.
it's a pleasure to meet you.
We're going to fight this fight all the way through till we get change.
Likewise.
I've learned so much today. Things I never thought were possible.
And who knew you were going to leave here going, how much poop should I be feeding my dog? You're poop for dinner.
Oh, boy.
All right, Peter, take care. For our listeners,
you,
thank you so much for being here. Please make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you post this, share this, do whatever you can so that together we can make sure that we're helping. Joey, as always, we'll sit in my office, Joey and I, and just talk about stuff all the time. So
and I really thank you for all the information. You've been so helpful, and I've been through so many of the things you've been through, but now I've just learned so much, and thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, no, I'm just glad and excited that you're, here and fighting the fight with us. So, all right, take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Bye,
Peter.
Peter.